Members, thank you again for your attention today. For many of us that may be new, I just want to share a little bit as to why we bring this resolution and the history of it. As the language shared, there was a decades-long fight to recognize not only the work and life of Dr. King, but to recognize that his death was a real symbol of the best and worst of our country in pursuit of freedom, and that we should recognize that formally as states. Last year, we had the founders of the holiday with us, with the Honorables Webbs, that we call them, with first Wellington Webb and then Wilma Webb, and you heard in the resolution that it was a decade-long fight of bringing the bill forward that we celebrate Dr. King. The parade that we embark on here on Monday, which in our community we say is a day on and not a day off, and it's really hard in snow-capped mountains, for people to remember that. But we march, and here in Colorado, we have an early legacy of recognizing Dr. King. And so we bring this resolution every year, and particularly in the first weeks of session, to remind ourselves that, the death of Dr. King and the prolific martyrdom that he was fully aware of that he may become, we bring it to remind ourselves of the best and worst of what our country has to offer, but more importantly, to set ourselves up for success, to do our best. Because that it cost a man his life. The first time I got to speak on this resolution, I was the same age he was when he died. And as much as I'd love to tell you my age, I am 40. And so to know that someone was completely aware that it would take his life to bring forward the voices of the poor, to bring forward the voices of those who are disenfranchised, to bring forward the voices of those who, even through the utmost discrimination, believed this country was theirs too, is the reason why we bring this forward, because we know our potential. There's been a lot of opinion, a lot of talk in the 50-plus years since his death. But I do want to remind us of the things that we do know are true in regards to what he said. And in doing so, I want to thank you all who came to speak for sharing, because there are quotes that Dr. King shared that I think touches upon a lot of what we said today. So first, I want to remind us, if you have not had the opportunity to listen to the mountaintop speech, that was the speech Dr. King gave the night before he died in Memphis. And a few things that actually happened there, and there are a few sections. I heard my colleague from Jefferson County also mention that, but one of the most striking points of that speech was when he said, "We want America to commit to what it said on paper, that all men are equal." And I would be surprised, there was an injunction levied against them for marching. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if we were in China or Russia, but we are in America. I am surprised that they are keeping me from my freedom of speech, my freedom of assembly, my freedom of press. We have the right to protest, and we all know this country was founded out of protest. He also said in the speech, not everybody loves me. And we were right. There is historical documentation of how everybody actually felt about Dr. King at the time. It was his martyrdom that pierced that bubble for people to recognize the depth of this fight. But in that speech, he also talked about why he committed to nonviolence. And for what it's worth, in our communities, sometimes we are told that Dr. King was the good one, that he behaved, and he wasn't disruptive, even though he was in jail everywhere. He was disruptive. The hoses, the dogs. But the association to nonviolence was particular in the sense that I will not give you anything else to talk about but this indignity, and you are going to have to hose me, pour a milkshake over my head, because that is on you. What we are here to do is to point out and confront the injustices that do not match what he did too also call an inalienable right. And that nonviolence, as we put in our resolution, is a marker of making us confront the tensions of the racism that we were so opaquely, that was so opaque as to why it was happening. We had to put a spotlight on it. And so he wanted you to focus on the indignities. But it was not because he did not believe in disruption. Ironically, disruption, he called, was American. And the last thing that he said in that speech, I may not get there with you. Imagine being in your late 30s and having to say in a microphone, I may not get there with you, but my eyes have seen the glory of the Lord. I have been to the mountaintop. So to know that it would take your life, because there was an assassination attempt on him before. He talked about having been stabbed in the chest.
Assistant Majority Leader Bacon, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. And so what I'd like us to remember, it is true that in the spirit of Dr. King, he fought vigorously, but we must continue to be aware and to hold ourselves to account to what it is that we know we all agreed on when it came to being American. And his trinity, that he called the triple evils, was the militarism in response to speech, was racism that did not start out as natural but was a construct created to separate, and was poverty. And we have opportunities like no other in this building, and we hope that his legacy reigns and we can focus and work together on those things. Thank you.